Welcome, everyone. If you're a member of the C-suite, a general counsel, on an investment committee, or a private equity professional, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today's explainer is a sophisticated executive briefing focused on a highly strategic decision, entering the Brazilian market. Now, Brazil is this incredibly dynamic, growing economy and a prime destination for global capital. But as we'll see, success there doesn't just happen by chance. It requires meticulous legal and operational planning.
Drawing on comprehensive legal insights, we're going to explore exactly how to properly structure your business in this sophisticated market. We need to establish something right up front, though. There is no universally superior entry model. Whether you're considering an acquisition of an existing Brazilian company, establishing a foreign branch, or looking at the primary options we'll focus on today, like greenfield investments, joint ventures, or contractual market entries, the perfect structure depends entirely on your specific objectives. It's all about your desired level of control, your capital commitment, your risk tolerance, and your ultimate exit strategy. Understanding the regulatory environment is quite literally the key to your success.
Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we'll be evaluating the primary structural avenues for market entry: greenfield investments, joint ventures, and contractual market entry. Before we wrap things up with the key decision factors you absolutely need to know.
Let's start with Section 1, Greenfield Investment.
When you're building an operation totally from the ground up, you're usually seeking two things: maximum control and a beautifully clean corporate history with zero legacy liabilities. And here's a highly attractive feature of doing this in Brazil. As a general rule, there's actually no minimum corporate capital required to start a business unless you're operating in specific regulated industries like financial services or insurance. You'll generally choose between two main corporate vehicles: the Sociedade Limitada, which is kind of like an LLC, and the Sociedade Anônima, which is a standard corporation. Both of these entities confer limited liability to their equity holders, shielding your parent company. The choice between the two really just hinges on your specific capitalization strategy, governance needs, and how you want to structure your equity holders.
So what does the actual implementation of a greenfield investment look like? Well, it follows a pretty strict procedural timeline. First up, the foreign investor has to obtain a Brazilian tax ID. That's a CNPJ for corporate entities or a CPF for individuals. Next, corporate documents are filed with the local registry of commerce. Finally, any foreign investments of $100,000 or more have to be formally registered with the Central Bank of Brazil. Now, while that might sound a bit extensive, if executed properly, the incorporation itself typically takes just 5 to 10 business days once all your documents are perfectly in order.
And that right there is the crucial point: document preparation. This is literally where implementation efforts stall out if you aren't prepared. Brazil requires a highly rigorous documentation process. All your foreign documents, like your home country articles of incorporation and powers of attorney, absolutely must be apostilled under the Hague Convention. On top of that, they have to be translated into Portuguese by a sworn, localized translator and registered with the local titles and deeds registry.
A super common question we hear from executive teams is about physical presence. Like, do you actually have to fly down to Brazil to incorporate? The answer is no, you don't. Foreign directors are perfectly permitted, and you don't need to be physically present. However, there is a strict mandate you can't ignore. You must appoint a resident attorney in fact to represent the foreign investor, and you are required to retain a local accounting firm to handle tax compliance.
Moving right along to Section 2, Joint Venture.
Sometimes, going at it alone via a greenfield investment just isn't the smartest strategic move. A joint venture is the ideal route when you really need a local partner's intimate market knowledge, their established distribution networks, or their expertise in navigating very specific local regulations. The strategic drivers here are super compelling. You get to share the investment risks and combine your global technology with their local infrastructure. But beyond strategy, a joint venture is sometimes a strict legal necessity. For instance, recent regulations in the online gambling industry mandate that at least 20% of the equity has to be held by a Brazilian citizen. So in highly regulated sectors, a local partner isn't just a nice-to-have, it's literally the cost of entry.
Now, if you choose a corporate joint venture, sharing equity in a limitada or anônima, you need to know that standard corporate bylaws are simply insufficient. A robust, meticulously drafted shareholders agreement is absolutely critical. This document is your operational safeguard. It has to explicitly define governance, voting rights, and capital contributions. But more importantly, it needs to outline shared transfer rights, like tag-along and drag-along clauses, strict non-compete provisions, and crystal-clear deadlock resolution and exit mechanisms to protect your investment if the partnership ever goes south.
All right, Section 3, contractual market entry. But what if you want the benefits of a partnership without all the complexities of sharing equity in a standard corporate vehicle? Well, this brings us to a highly unique alternative in Brazil, the Sociedade em Conta de Participação, or SCP. Unlike standard corporate joint ventures that create a brand new, distinct legal entity that both parties own, an SCP operates entirely differently. It's considered a contractual company, and it actually operates without a traditional corporate body at all.
The dynamics of an SCP are incredibly attractive for foreign capital seeking reduced exposure. Basically, in this structure, the Brazilian partner acts as the active partner. They conduct all the business in their own name and absorb the operational risks. The foreign investor? They act purely as a silent partner, providing capital, equipment, or intellectual property in exchange for a share of the profits. Crucially, Brazilian law shields the silent partner from the tax and labor liabilities associated with the business, which offers a seriously powerful layer of protection.
Finally, Section 4, Key Decision Factors. Regardless of which structure you ultimately choose, your long-term success in Brazil relies heavily on strict adherence to corporate governance and regulatory compliance. And the absolute pinnacle of this compliance is corporate transparency, specifically regarding the ultimate beneficial owner, or UBO. Brazilian tax authorities require you to pierce the corporate veil. A UBO is strictly defined as the natural person who ultimately owns, controls, or significantly influences the entity. By law, this is presumed if a natural person holds more than 25% of the capital or voting rights or exercises clear dominance in corporate decisions.
And you have to act fast because the clock starts ticking immediately. You have exactly 30 days from the exact moment your entity is registered with a tax ID to report your ultimate beneficial owners to the Brazilian Internal Revenue Service. This is a hard deadline, folks, and the penalties for non-compliance are severe. Failing to report results in the immediate suspension of your tax ID and a strict prohibition on conducting any transactions with financial institutions. It effectively freezes your ability to transfer funds or even operate.
To bring this all together, Brazil is undeniably a welcoming, sophisticated destination for international business. However, market entry is never a casual endeavor. Whether you're executing a complex acquisition, setting up a foreign branch, prioritizing the complete control of a greenfield investment, or utilizing the shielded flexibility of an SSTP, your success is entirely dependent on meticulous legal planning and precise contractual execution.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. When you look at your organization's strategy for entering Brazil, is your planned operational structure resilient enough to balance your need for control with the uncompromising rigors of Brazilian corporate compliance? It's a critical question and one that absolutely demands a sophisticated legal conversation. Thank you so much for joining this explainer.